About a year ago, I realized that I have ADHD. I got burned out with one of the projects that I was working on, and I was sitting on a balcony, exhausted as fuck. And at some point I asked myself, why do you always end up in the same place? Being busy, hardworking, burned out, but getting no results whatsoever. I started watching videos, researching, reading information about ADHD. I implemented some things that helped me, and in fact they did wonders for me. And in this video I will give you practical tips that you can implement in your life right away. First, you have to understand this. This change cannot be just a gimmick. And this is the first tip that you can embody to make it like that. This tip is to become a closer. There will be two main key points here to grasp, but first let's start with the general idea. What does it mean? As I said, it's not that I'm not a hardworking guy. Years ago, in a place where I'm from, they built a swimming pool. I got excited about it and I wanted to learn how to swim. One time I almost fucking drowned and the bodyguard saved me with this stick. Still, I wanted to learn, so I did it for 90 days straight. Even though just after learning it I won a district competition, I just didn't want to do this anymore. And it was the case for a lot of stuff in my life. Should I continue to swim and become a professional? Probably not. But I know for a fact that if I could stay consistent with one thing for a long enough time, I could become really fucking good at it. And you probably know that about yourself too. And how can becoming a closer help you with that, and how to use it to make that change? As I told you in the beginning, when I realized sitting on my balcony that I most likely have an ADHD, at the same time I decided that I want to come back on YouTube. First thing that I started to do is to rearrange my apartment to look more like a YouTube studio. I started to paint this masterpiece and it took me like 20 to 30 hours to do that, because after making the decision right away I knew that this will be a long-term thing, and this is something that I have to start doing, embracing these long-term projects and just finish them one after another, because this is the only way to become a person that finishes what he started. It cannot be a gimmick, because in the end it has to become your character trait. If you want to become a closer and stick to these long-term projects and plans, you have to do things from start to finish, one after another, and that way reaffirm to yourself that you are a guy that is a closer. Not by sitting and affirming to yourself that you are a closer, but by actually doing that thing over and over again. And even if you will lose interest at some point, it doesn't matter. Like, I didn't have to paint this thing myself, I could just buy it. But it was about practice of strengthening that persistence muscle. But here you might ask yourself, why is it that way? Why can I work a lot, start doing a lot of things, but not stick till the end? And this is the novelty loop. The reason why it is that way is because that initial passion, initial motivation that you have about a thing gives you a lot of dopamine right away. Your brain understands the reward, knows that wow, it will be cool to do that, and wants to pursue that thing. Because more than just a reward, dopamine is also a motivation molecule. After some time of doing that thing, the initial hype and dopamine diminishes, and now you're at this lower level. The way to fix it is to stay on that lower level until the thing is done. Think about it that way. You already started, you already built the momentum and started that ball rolling. You spent some time in flow state, and this in fact is easier than the alternative, when you will postpone that and now you only have to deal with that last hardest part. And now another question might come to your mind. Do I always have to end the things that I started? And now the second key point that I told you before comes, and that key point is to put it in a box. And I don't mean your dick here, I mean the category of thing that you're doing. Following my course example, I knew the things that I have to do are to record talking head videos, edit them, then create animations, then record real life scenes, and then edit these. And by categorizing them, so for example, first only recording the talking head videos allowed me to train this persistence muscle to stay with the thing until this category that I put in one box is done. So it still teaches you to become a closer, allows you to avoid the novelty loop, plus by categorizing things you get to the finish line a lot faster. Now let's talk about another approach, because you will not always be motivated enough to even start the task. And this is a problem, because whenever a task is connected with passion, with enthusiasm, with excitement, it's easy to start. But what if it doesn't have that aspect? Here we can hack the system using the neurochemical momentum approach. This one is biological approach, but it works wonders. If your brain perceives a thing as boring, dull, like organization, structure, schedule, and it doesn't bring a lot of dopamine right away, it's very hard to start. By creating neurochemical momentum, or just by biologically increasing the level of dopamine in your brain, you can recreate that effect of hype just on neurochemical level. First example of such thing is cold shower. 2 to 3 minutes of cold shower can increase your dopamine by 200%, and it stays like that for 3 to 4 hours. When after like smoking a cigarette or scrolling on your phone, you get that initial dopamine, but then it diminishes. With cold shower, it stays on that level, and it's also good and healthy for you. You don't experience the drop, and it also has a lot of positive health benefits. Other things that work are going on a walk, any form of sun exposure, putting on some energizing music, breath work, cup of coffee, doing a 10-minute cardio exercise, or just starting for 2 minutes approach. After doing any of this, your dopamine is higher now, you hacked it, and you created this neurochemical momentum for yourself. And it's a lot easier to start from here than if your dopamine would be at 0.0. But there still will be times when even this method will not work for you, because your dopamine will be so low that the only thing that you can think about doing is to lay down and scroll on your phone. And here you can use the third approach, which I called the victory stack. Let's say you woke up and you want to start working on your project, and the thing that would allow you to get on that level of hype and excitement would be to take a cold shower, start this cardio exercise, or go on a walk. But you're not able to do any of this. The victory stack is about getting you more and more into a flow state and unplug yourself from that hypnotic state that your phone is putting you in. For example, I'm not always that hyped to wake up and do the cold shower right away. I need some initial dopamine to get me going. I still need to take a step back and do something easier, because the truth is you will always find something easier, the first step that you can take. In other words, the easiest fucking thing that you can think of, start with, just to keep the ball rolling. For me, when I wake up, sometimes I just go and do groceries. I look at my to-do list and do any task from it. Sometimes if I'm at a very low place, getting my phone and replying to messages or emails still helps me, because I get something done and it gives me more motivation and more dopamine. And doing these small things one after another stacks dopamine and gets you higher. So then, for example, doing a cold shower is now doable, and then starting to work on your project is doable, because you create that victory stack effect. It's not the best approach that you can take, because sometimes replying to emails or messages will get you hooked more to spend time on your phone. But if it will help you to get started and make the ball rolling, it's always worth a try, and better than not doing anything. And now you might think to yourself, sounds cool, but there's another problem with ADHD, that sometimes I'm so fucking hyperactive, running around, not knowing what to focus on. I have no idea how to get started whatsoever. My thinking is too disorganized. And for this, what will help is the emotional backlog. You as an ADHD type guy are more emotional than a regular guy. You just feel your emotions more. And that's why it's also easier to get into a panic mode. When there's a lot of chaos and disorganization in your life, you tend to lose your temper, lose your mind. And this is paradoxical because you are disorganized in a chaos and you can't get unstuck to get organized because you cannot motivate yourself to do that. So how the emotional backlog can help you with that, and what does it mean and how to do that? You have to use 5 minutes a day approach to constantly figure out what's going on with you on emotional level. Why do you panic and what your emotions are trying to tell you? You can do this with journaling, with meditation, just sitting there and observing your emotions, going on a walk and thinking and trying to organize it and to just get more calm. You can do a breathing exercise. And why is it like that? Because if you will not do this consistently using this 5 to 10 minutes a day approach that I gave you, your emotions will just stuck, and at some point there's too much to handle, and that's why you get into this panic hyperactive mode. This is the reason that ADHD is fucking you in the ass in the first place, by putting you in a chaos, disorganization, and making you more emotional. And that's why emotional backlog is effective. It helped me a lot. What works for me and is very effective is just writing down physically with a pen on a piece of paper, because it helps you to put your emotions on a paper in a way and to understand them better. If you're interested in more tricks and tips from an ADHD type of person like myself to become more productive, Renaissance of Productivity, link in the description, it will help you with that. Thanks for watching and to be continued.